Chapter 10. Truth and Lies. That year the rains had come so gently that the Salinas River did not overflow. A narrow stream twisted from one side to the other of its broad bed of gray sand, and the water was clear and pleasant. It was very warm for March, and the wind blew steadily from the south and turned up the silver undersides of the leaves. Cal and Aaron climbed up out of the river bottom to the level land. "We ought to start back," said Aaron. "Maybe Father's back by now." Aaron's eyes were very wide, and he had a beautiful, soft mouth. The width between his blue eyes gave him an expression of innocence. His hair was fine and golden. The sun seemed to light up the top of his head. Cal looked more like Adam. His hair was dark brown. He was bigger than his brother, bigger of bone, heavier in the shoulder, and his jaw had the squareness of Adam's jaw. Cal's eyes were brown and watchful, and sometimes they looked black. They walked along in silence for a time, and then Cal said, "All this is our land, all the way over to the river." "It's Father's." "Yes, but when he dies, it's going to be ours." This was a new thought to Aaron. "What do you mean, when he dies?" "Everybody dies," said Cal. "I know that." Aaron wanted to think of something else. Cal said, "I know a secret. Where do you think our mother is?" "She's dead." "No, she isn't. She ran away. I heard some men talking." "I don't believe it," said Aaron. "They were liars. Father said she was in heaven." Cal said quietly, "Pretty soon I'm going to run away and find her. I'll bring her back." "Don't you think she's in heaven?" And when Cal did not answer, "Why would she want to run away?" "Maybe because she didn't like us." Through his gathering tears, Aaron could see his brother's eyes, hard and reasonable. There were no tears in Cal's eyes. Cal felt pleasantly excited. He had found a secret tool to use for any purpose he needed. He studied Aaron, saw his trembling lips, but he noticed in time the narrowed eyes. Aaron would cry, but sometimes, pushed to tears, Aaron would fight too. And when Aaron cried and fought at the same time, he was dangerous. Nothing could hurt him, and nothing could stop him. Cal put his new tool away. He could bring it out any time, and he knew it was the sharpest weapon he had found. He would inspect it at his leisure and judge when and how much to use it. He made his decision almost too late. Aaron leaped at him and hit him in the face with his open hand. Cal jumped back and cried, "I was just joking. Honest, Aaron, it was only a joke." Aaron stopped. Pain and puzzlement were on his face. "I don't like that joke," he said. Cal came close to him and put his arm around him and kissed him on the cheek. "I won't do it anymore," he said. The boys walked silently for a while. Aaron said, "Did you really hear those men?" "Maybe I only thought I did," Cal said quickly. The twins came in sight of the ranch buildings in time to see Lee leading a strange horse and carriage toward the barn. "Who's here?" said Cal. "Just some people going by," said Lee. "They were looking for the Long Ranch. Your father's back from Salinas. You'd better go in." The two looked down shyly as they entered the living room. There was a man in city clothes and a woman in the fanciest clothes they had ever seen. Her coat and hat lay on a chair beside her, and she seemed to the boys to be entirely dressed in black silk and lace. But that was not all. Beside the woman sat a girl, a little younger maybe than the twins, but not much. She wore a wide blue sun hat with lace around the front and a flowery dress. The boys could not see her face because of the sun hat, but her hands were folded in her lap, and it was easy to see the little gold ring she wore on her third finger. "These are my boys," their father said. "They're twins. That's Aaron, and this is Caleb. Boys, shake hands with our guests, Mr. and Mrs. Bacon and their daughter Abra." Aaron shyly held out his hand to the little girl with the hidden face, but nothing happened. Her hand was held out, but it did not move towards his. There was a long silence. Then he heard his brother laugh. Aaron reached out and grabbed her hand and pumped it up and down 3 times. It was as soft as a handful of flowers. He felt a pleasure that burned him. "Children, go outside and play," Mrs. Bacon said. Abra and Cal and Aaron went out and stood side by side on the small covered porch. Cal demanded, "How old are you?" 10, almost 11. "Huh," said Cal. "We're 11, almost 12. Abra pushed her sun hat back. She was pretty, with long dark hair. One day her nose would be sweet and turned up, where now it was still like a button. But 2 features would be with her always. Her chin was firm, and her mouth was as sweet as a flower, very wide and pink. Her green eyes were intelligent and completely fearless. "You can come here and play if you like," said Cal boldly. "I live in Salinas," Abra said, in such a tone that they knew they were dealing with a superior being who had no time for rural pleasures. Abra saw that she had crushed them, and while she knew the weaknesses of men, she still liked them, and besides, she was a lady. "Sometimes when we are driving by, I'll come and play with you. A little," she said kindly, and both boys felt grateful to her. Now Abra felt warmer toward the boys. She noticed their thin, washed-out clothes and remembered the children's stories she had read. "You poor children," she said. "Does your father beat you?" They shook their heads. They were interested, but puzzled. "Is your mother mean to you?" "We don't have a mother," said Aaron. "Our mother's dead." His words destroyed the story she was writing, but immediately supplied her with another. "Little motherless orphans," she said sweetly. "I'll be your mother. I'll hold you in my arms and tell you stories." "We're too big," said Cal. "You'd fall over." Abra turned away from his cruelty. Aaron, she saw, was entering into her story, and he seemed to be imagining that he was in her arms. Abra looked at his sunny hair and at his eyes that seemed so near to tears, and she felt the beginning of love. She put her hand on his arm and felt him shiver. "Tell me," she said pleasantly, "where is your mother buried? You could put flowers on her grave." "We don't know," said Aaron. Cal's eyes shone with a new interest. "I'll ask our father where it is so we can take flowers," he said. He was already planning his revenge on Aaron because Abra liked his brother better. At that moment, Lee came out leading the Bacon's horse and carriage. Mrs. Bacon called, "Hurry, Abra, we're going." Lee and Adam and the twins watched them until they were out of sight. At the supper table, the boys discovered the change in their father. The boys had never learnt to tell him of their interests or discoveries or of their needs. They were surprised and a little embarrassed to find that Adam listened to them and asked questions. "What did you think of Abra?" Adam asked. "Is she a nice little girl?" "Oh, yes," said Aaron. "She's good and nice. I wanted to marry her." "You did? What about you, Cal?" "I guess I'll let Aaron have her." Adam laughed, and the boys could not recall ever having heard him laugh. "She's a real nice girl," said Cal. "She said to ask you where our mother's grave is so we can take some flowers." Adam's mind raced. He was not good at lying. "I wish we could do that, but I have to tell you, she's buried on the other side of the country, where she came from." Cal was disappointed by this answer, but he was not sure why. Adam quickly changed the subject. "Mr. Bacon made a suggestion this afternoon," he began. "He said it would be better for you if we moved to Salinas, where there would be lots of other children to play with." The thought shocked the twins. Cal asked, "How about here?" "Well, we'd keep the ranch in case we want to come back," said Adam. Aaron said, "Abra lives in Salinas." That was enough for him. After the boys had gone to bed, Adam said, "Do they know anything?" "I don't know," said Lee. "I wish there were some way you could tell them the truth." "That would rob them of the good thoughts about their mother, Lee." "But there's another danger. What will we do if they find out the truth? A lot of people know, but that's not the worst danger." "What do you mean?" asked Adam. "It's the lie I'm thinking of," said Lee. "If they ever found out you lied to them about this, they wouldn't believe anything you'd ever said or done." "I'll think about what to tell them," said Adam. "Lee, if I wanted to take a trip east, would you stay with the twins until I get back? I'd like to see my brother Charles." "Why don't you write and ask him to come out here?" "That's a good idea, Lee. I didn't think of it. How long does it take a letter to go east?" "I don't know," said Lee. 2 weeks, maybe?"